Hi, and welcome back. Let's learn about how to create primary keys in a table using PostgreSQL pgadmin 4. If you would like to know the uh, logic and concept of primary keys as well as other database keys, please refer to my videos where I've explained them in further details. But let's get to it without any further ado. Primary key, again, just as a refresher, is nothing but an identifier, a unique identifier in each table that we use to identify a specific record or row and to use that identifier to establish relationship with other tables. A couple of assumptions or requirements for primary keys, just as a refresher, is that it has to be unique value and it cannot contain null values. So when you're creating a primary key, in a way, you are creating a constraint to your table. And I'll get to that, what it really means in a second. So I went ahead and created, I'm going to go ahead and create a table using this script, and then I'm going to insert these values into those tables, which is nothing but three columns. This is the test table which we just created, which is nothing but three columns, and each column, as you can see here, is specified. Uh, uh, Second, I would like to show it on the same page where I have everything else. So we created a table that has the column ID, country, and region, where ID is integer, country is a variable character, and region is a variable character as well, with 255 length of characters for each. And then we inserted these values into each of those rows, as you can see here. So as you can see on the columns here, we see the data type, but we don't see any indication of any type of constraint, such as primary key or foreign key, on any of these columns. In other words, all of these columns have labels and data types, but then there's no specific uh, column identifier, a primary key in this table. So how do we create a primary key while we are creating a table? So that's one of the ways we can do it, right? So if you were to start a new table and you wanted to pass an operator there to make sure to create a primary key, then you would pass it here. So let me go ahead first drop this table so we don't so I can recreate it. Drop table test table one. So this is dropped. Let me go ahead and refresh it. We don't see it anymore. So as a starter, when we create a table and we want to create a primary key in it, we are going to simply add a primary key keyword. So say create a primary key, and then in the parentheses, we specify what column should be our primary key. In this case, we're going to say ID. So we're saying create ID column, create country column, create region column, but then also make the ID column as our primary key for this table. So let's go ahead and run this. And there you go, the query runs successfully. And let's also go ahead and insert these values into our table. And then let's go ahead and run the table. And there you go. You can see in the output that we have a PK, which stands for primary key. So we have this indicator here on our column that tells us that this column is the primary key for this column is a primary key for the table. So that's one of the ways. Um, Another way is that when you're actually working with whatever environment you're working, or whatever interactive or IDE interface that you're working with, either it's pgadmin for Postgres, or if you're working with Toad for Oracle, you will have some ability to be able to use drop-down menu to do some limited functions for database and tables manipulation. Like for example, in this case, we can the test table one which is created. If we wanted to make any modification to the structure of the table, such as adding a primary key or removing a primary key, or adding foreign key, or adding additional constraints, you also have the option of doing it using the drop-down menu on the property here. And the way it works is you go to the property, and again, it's different based on whatever RDBMS database management system that you're using, and what tool to use outside of the command line to communicate with your database. So that IDE tool, that GUI graphic tool that you're using, has some, again, some give you some ability to be able to modify, add, edit, or create table constraints, or so say table modifications using drop-down menus such as what you're seeing here on the screen. Even with the SQL Server Management Studio, there's a lot you can do using the option for the objects that's available for your database. So in here, as you can see, test table one, we have the columns names, right? So this is the structure skeleton of our table, which you just created using the script here. And so as you can see, we have 3 columns. And so our focus here is a constraint. So let's just not worry about everything else. I think I've covered some of these, and I'll cover some of these in the context of the topic that I'm explaining, but I will cover the rest in the context of the topic I'll be explaining in the future videos. But let's talk about constraint, because that's the focus of this video. As you can see, when you click on constraint and you see on this tab, on the primary key, we have one constraint, right? And the name is ID. So automatically you can see it here in your table properties, that we have one type of constraint, which is a primary key. As I said at the beginning of the video, primary key itself is a type of constraint, right? But the fact that you cannot leave a record as null, meaning it cannot be blank, the fact that you cannot have duplicate values, and all the values what for that specific column has to be unique. These are in fact a type of constraint that you're enforcing for that column. So again, primary key itself is a type of constraint. This is why when you go to the constraint tab, you're looking at all types of constraint uh, types here that has been applied or can be applied to your table. So we already applied one here, and it's the primary key ID. We don't have a foreign key, so you don't see anything here. We don't have a check constraint. We don't have a unique constraint. We don't have exclude constraint. We only have a primary key constraint. I'll explain the rest of these in their associated demonstrations to understand better. But for this particular video, we are looking at primary key, and again, as soon as you assign the primary key using the SQL script, you can see it here. And let's say if you don't want to if you don't want to have a the primary key called in your script, and if you, let's say if you want to do it here, you can actually do it here. And let me give you an example. Let's go ahead and drop this table once again, and this table has been dropped. So let's refresh to make sure it goes away from here, and it did. So let's say we get rid of the primary ID here, and we create a table without a primary ID key or primary key. Get rid of the comma here because there's no other column. There you go. The table has now been created. Let's go refresh. Let's go to the table properties, and let's go to constraint. And there you go. We don't see a primary key. So if you don't want to code it in your statement, you can actually create it here and say, I want to have a primary key, and you want to name it, let's say, what was it that we wanted to do? ID. So just name it ID, and then the column name will be ID as well. So uh, you're going to put ID here, and then you're going to please specify column for the primary key. Yes, so on your column, so let's go ahead and create the primary key. And so let's give it the label ID, and let's go to definition, and then from here we can select the created column and say that's what we would like to assign as a primary key. Let's not worry about the rest of these, and go ahead and click on save. And there you go. Let's go back to the properties. Actually, let's run a query to look at the primary key indicator here on the actual screen. There you go. You can see it. The reason you don't see data is because I did not insert the values. So let's go ahead and insert the values and then rerun it again. And you're going to see now the primary key indicator here. We didn't do it through the SQL script. Instead, we did it through the properties here, through the constraint. So we just assigned a constraint and we selected the ID column for it. We can also do it through the columns. As you can see, ID is now primary key. Let's say if you wanted to, if you wanted to turn on the null, that's itself, a type of constraint you're assigning. Or if you want to, let's say, give a default value for each of these columns, you can do additional constraint here, and the constraint that you assign here will reflect here on the constraint tab over here. So play with it and see how you can see what method, which method is more convenient to you, either writing it through script or assigning a primary ID through the drop-down menu on the property, which is, I believe, much easier. Something else that, let's say, let's go ahead and drop this table one more time. And this time, let's go ahead and create the table again. And again, this time we're not going to have primary ID. So as you can see, there's no primary key ID. Now this time we're going to, and instead of going to the table properties, we're going to assign a primary key using the alter statement. So the alter statement is used when you want to make a modification to your table. So we say alter, and then we specify the name of the table, table 1. So just before I write this down, let me one more time show it to you that we actually don't have no primary key constraint here, as you can see, because I had to drop that table one more time. So we alter it, and then we say add, right? Just like we say add column, and here we say add, and then we say primary key. And then we specify what column should be, or what field should be our primary key. And we specify, this time we're going to select ID again. And let's go ahead and run this. I made a mistake with the test table 1. I guess I did not. So syntax error near test table 1. Oh, I made a mistake with the table. I did not specify the table. That's what happens when you're typing fast. So go ahead and run it again, and it's successful now. Now let's go ahead and query the table columns, and you're going to see, there you go. Now we have the primary key. Same thing when you go to the table properties using the drop-down menu, you're going to see that primary key constraint established here as well as here. I know this was a little bit robust and detailed, but I'm hopeful that you will learn something from this video. Thank you so much, as always.